Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone. The final day. This is session 2 now. And now we have Holy Name in Bhagavatam with our very special guest, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. He is a direct disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and in the early days, he served as an editor, or as you would say, assistant editor on other aspects, for nearly all the books of Srila Prabhupada that he published while Srila Prabhupada was alive. In the mid-1980s, he spent a year and a half traveling with a party of pilgrims on Padayatra, a journey on foot through various states of India, stopping in different towns and villages every night. He co-founded the Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education. Since 1988, he has served as a director of Srila Prabhupada's publishing house, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, and he now oversees the work of the BBT in Africa. Recently, he served as editor of 3-volume translation and commentary for the Sri Brihad Bhagavat Amrita, a 16th century Sanskrit philosophical and devotional work by Srila Sanatana Goswami and Sri Krishna Leela Stava. And apart from his services in publishing, he travels widely, teaching about philosophy and culture of Krishna consciousness. He has, to date, taught in over 60 countries. So without further ado, I would love to welcome His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 12:13-23. Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukha Shamanas Tam Namami Harim Padam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Hari, the congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offering of obeisances unto whom relieves all material suffering. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadhati Shapadantikam. Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Shahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanas Tam Namami Harim Param. This is the last verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, the ripe fruit of all the Vedic wisdom. The Nama Sankirtanam, Yasya. Well, Yasya, of whom? Who is that whom? Hari. Hari means Lord Sri Krishna. So the person in focus is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. Yasya Nama Sankirtanam. The Nam Sankirtan about him. Krishna Kirtan, Hari Kirtan. Not other Kirtan. Durga Kirtan, Shiva Kirtan, this Kirtan, that Kirtan. Hari Kirtan. If someone thinks that Lord Shiva, Lord Krishna, Durga, Ganesh, others are all on the same level, then the Shastra says he's like an atheist. Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahmarudradi Daivatai Samatvainaiva Viksheta Yapashanti Pavedrivam. One has to understand from authorities like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam that Narayan or Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ekala Ishar Krishnar Sarpritya, everyone else's servant. So the discussion here is about Harinam Sankirtan. Sankirtan means complete kirtan, or kirtan where many gather together. In the Kali Yuga, this is the recommended method. Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Eva Kevalam. Kalo Nasteva, 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 Katiranyata. Other methods of self-realization will be ineffective in this age, but the Harinam will be ultra effective. Harinam Sankirtan. Golo Kera Premadhan. Harinam Sankirtan. By this sound vibration, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, comes from the spiritual world. It descends from the spiritual world. Golo Kera Premadhan. And with this chanting of Hare Krishna, one can get love for Krishna, which is the ultimate perfection. Prema Pumarta Mahan. Nama Sankirtan Yasya. Sarva Papa Pranashana. Our present problem is that we're undergoing the results of sinful activities since many, many births, unlimited numbers of births. And we have an unlimited stock, therefore, of reactions. Some we're already suffering. Some are just waiting to appear as the results of our previous activities. Some we're setting in motion now by performing activities contrary to our prescribed duty. Some we're not doing, but we're thinking about it, and later we'll do it. And then there are others, we're not even thinking about it yet, but the seed is there within the heart. And at some mature time, that seed of material desire will come out, and then we'll act sinfully, and then we'll later get the reactions. So it's a whole chain of sinful life in different stages. Like a flower, there's the seed, there's the bud, there's the full flower. So this is not a very nice flower, sinful life, but it has these different stages. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's described that one may cut down the results of sinful activities by some process, by undergoing some penance, by undergoing some tapasya, by this way or that way. One may cut down some of the results of sinful life by some chanting some mantras, by doing some astrological remedial measure. But the seed is still there in the heart. It's not cut down completely. It's like cutting down plants and then seeing them grow up again, because the root is still there. The root is still there. So other methods of cutting down sinful reactions are only partial. The sinful reactions will come again, the sinful activities will come again. But karmani nirdhati kintucha bhakti bhaja. By devotional service to Krishna, beginning with Harinam Sankirtan, one can cut down, not only cut down, but uproot all the sinful activities, tapatrayo namulam, and therefore uproot all the miseries that come from sinful reactions. So sarva papa pranashanam. Pranashanam. Nashanam means destroys, and pranashanam means utterly destroys, completely destroys. Sarva papa pranashanam. The holy name will do that. In the 6th canto, it said, Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayanaha agham tunvanti kartsnyena nitaram iva bhaskara. Just as the sun dissipates the fog, so all sinful reactions are dissipated by devotional service to Krishna. And again, that most important item of devotional service is hearing and chanting. Nama Sankirtan means both parts are there, to hear the holy name of Krishna and to chant the holy name of Krishna. How one gets freed from sinful reactions is vividly described in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam in connection with the life of Ajamil. Ajamil was a Brahmin boy who became deviated from Brahminical life and became degraded by the association of a prostitute and engaged in all sorts of sinful activities, so that at the time of his death, the Yamadutas, the servants of Yamaraj, came to fetch him, to drag him off to hellish life. But they were stopped by the agents of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnudutas. Why? Because at the last moment of his life, he chanted the holy name of Narayan. Actually, he wasn't chanting for Lord Narayan. He was calling out to his son. He'd named his youngest son Narayan. And so when these fearful Yamadutas appeared, the terrified Ajamil was calling out to Narayan, his son. But regardless of his purpose, he was chanting the holy name of Narayan. So Narayan took it that he's chanting my holy name. And therefore he was saved by the Vishnu Dutas. In this connection, the Bhagavatam described, well, the Yamadutas were surprised. How is this sinful person being delivered? So there was some discussion between the Yamadutas and the Vishnu Dutas. And the Vishnu Dutas said, Ajamil's already atoned for all his sinful actions. Not only those of one life, but those of millions of lives. Because he's helplessly chanted the holy name of Narayan. Even though he didn't chant purely, he chanted inoffensively. So now he's pure and eligible for liberation. In the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada quotes some relevant verses that are quoted by his predecessor, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Namno hi yavati shakti papanir harane harehe tavat kartum nashaknoti patakam pataki naraha. Simply by chanting one holy name of Hari Krishna, a sinful man can counteract the reactions to more sins than he's able to commit. This is the power of the holy name. Avashenapi yan namni kirtite sarvapata kaihi puman vimuchyate sadya singha trashtayar ragayariva. Garuda Purana. If one chants the holy name of the Lord, even in a helpless condition or not desiring to do so, all the reactions of his sinful life depart. Just as when a lion roars, all the small animals flee in fear. Sakrid uchcharitam yena harir ityakshara dvayam badha parikarastena mokshaya gamanam prati. By once chanting the holy name of the Lord, which consists of the two syllables Hari, one guarantees his path to liberation. Well, this is the practical demonstration of the power of the holy name. The Vishnu Duta said that while eating and all the time, a Jamil would call his son, Narayan, come here, Narayan. So he was chanting the holy name of Narayan, and therefore he's freed from all reactions. The chanting of the holy name, this is also Bhagavatam. Stena surapo mitra juk brahmaha gurutalpagaha Sri Raja Pitrigo Hanta Ye Chapatakino Pare Sarvesham Apagavatam Idameva Sunishkritam Nama Vyaharanam Vishnor Yatastad Vishayamatihi. The chanting of the holy name of Lord Vishnu is the best means of atonement for a gold thief, a thief of other valuables, for a drunkard, for one who betrays a friend or relative, who kills a Brahmin, who indulges in sex with the wife of his guru or another superior. It's the best method of atonement for one who murders women, the king or his father, for one who slaughters cows, and for all other sinful men. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, my duty is to give him protection. So this is the absolute power of the holy name. Abhinnatam nama namino. There's no difference between Lord Sri Krishna and Lord Sri Krishna's holy name. Shuddha, Nitya, what is that? Purna Shuddha Ditya Mukta Abhinnatam nama namino. The holy name of the Lord is complete, it's pure, it's on the liberated platform. So by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can gradually reach that platform. And freedom from sinful reactions, we heard the list, such sinful activities that one would think one could never get free from the reactions to this. And yet, just by chanting the holy name of the Lord, it happens. We see this practically. Srila Prabhupada came to the Western countries where sinful activities are the standard way of life. They're not even recognized as sinful. If you talk about sinful, it's like weird. What is sinful? It's like rhetoric from a previous century or two. Sinful. What is sinful? What are you talking about? And even people who are religious and who recognize the difference between pious and sinful perform sinful activities as a normal function. Killing and eating cows, and so many other things. Don't even know. The Western countries particularly are so degraded. And yet, Srila Prabhupada was able to attract and rescue so many Westerners by this chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He insisted on 4 rules. No chant, no intoxicants, not even coffee, tea, or cigarettes. No gambling, no meat eating, no illicit sex. And because people were purified by the chanting of the holy name, they agreed, yes, I'll follow. Srila Prabhupada said that when he first reached America, he thought, as soon as I tell them these 4 rules, they'll just run away. They'll say, you go back to India. But the chanting of the holy name is so powerful that people became purified and took up, not only became purified, freed from these negative things, these sinful activities, but positively dedicated their lives for the service of Krishna. It's a practical demonstration. In the Bhagavatam also elsewhere it said that a person who may be a dog eater is excluded from any sacrificial performance. If you go to have an auspicious ceremony performed, you want it performed by a pure Brahmin, not by, you don't want any impure people to be present. Dog eaters, drunkards, spoil the whole sanctity of the function. So they're all excluded. But if a person chants the holy name, constantly chants the holy name of Krishna, then he becomes better than the Brahmin. Yan namadheya shravananu kirtanad, yad pravanad, yad smaranad api kvachit. Svadopi sadhya Savanaya Kolpite Kutak Punaste Bhagavan Nidarshanat. Just by constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, that same dog-eater who would spoil a sacrifice by his very presence becomes eligible to perform the sacrifice, to take the place of the Brahmin priest, because he's higher than the Brahmin priest is. Why? Because he's chanting the holy name of Krishna. So this is the statement of Shastra, and it's demonstrated by Srila Prabhupada's practical activities as in presenting the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended to this material world to spread the Sankirtan movement. And Srila Prabhupada took up the mission of spreading Lord Chaitanya's movement. And we see that it's effective. In the Bhagavatam it said further, the Vishnu Dutas and Yamadutas were, the Yamadutas and Vishnu Dutas were continuing their discussion. And the Yamadutas said that Sanketyam Parihasyam Va Stobham Helanam Eva Va Vaikuntha Nama Grahanam Asheshagha Harang Vidu. One who chants the holy name of the Lord is at once freed from the reactions of unlimited sins. Even if he chants indirectly to indicate something else, or jokingly, or for musical entertainment, or even neglectfully. And this is accepted by all the scholars of scriptures, the learned scholars of scriptures. So more can be said. There's no limit. As there's no limit to the glories of Krishna, there's no limit to the glories of the holy name of Krishna. They're one and the same. So simply by chanting, our whole Hare Krishna movement is going on simply by the power of Krishna's holy name. The holy name does everything. Yes. Holy name does everything. Therefore, Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasjeva, Nasjeva, Nasjeva Katiranyata. Kali Kale Namarupe Krishna Avatar. In the Kali Yuga, Krishna appears in the form of his name. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. When things are disturbed, when there are discrepancies, departures from prescribed duty, from the real purpose of life, when there's simply adharma, sinful life, then tadatmanam srijamyam, Krishna appears. So in the Kali Yuga, Krishna appears particularly in the form of this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now people are in anxiety and difficulty on account of this present pandemic that's going on. But they can be relieved of all anxieties just by chanting the holy name of Krishna, because it comes from the platform of Vaikuntha, where there's no anxiety. And what to speak of being freed from anxieties? they can be freed from all sinful reactions. And being freed from all sinful reactions means being freed from all miseries. And what to speak of being freed from all miseries, they can get the greatest happiness. Yam labdva chapram labam manyate nadikam tata. Yasmin stitam dukena gurunapi vichalyate. By chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can get the boundless happiness, unlimited happiness, the happiness of the spiritual world. And what to speak of happiness, one can revive one's eternal loving relationship with Krishna and become an eternal associate of Krishna in the spiritual world. Chakvadeham punarjanma naiti mameti. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, simply by understanding Krishna as he is, one can be freed from the cycle of repeated birth and death and go back home, back to Godhead. This is the ultimate business. Human life is not meant just to gratify the senses. Kamasya nendriya priti. That's not the business of human life. Human life is meant for spiritual realization and ultimately for going back to our eternal position, our eternal engagement in the loving service of Krishna. All of this is possible by hearing and chanting the holy name of Krishna, by hearing the message of Srimad Bhagawatam. The Bhagavatam is also Hari Kirtan. Chanting the holy name of the Lord is Hari Kirtan. Chanting the glories of the Lord as found in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, is also Hari Kirtan. So, Hari Kirtan, the Satatam Kirtiyanto Mam Yatantas Chadridhavrita. In the Bhagavad Gita, this is the business of the broad-minded people, those who are on the path of spiritual perfection, to always to chant the holy name of Krishna. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama. And all right, maybe I'll stop here and see what kind of questions there might be. You're muted, Prabhu.
Here we are. We're back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, fine.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for that wonderful class. So we've had some questions coming through. So I'll start to bring them online. So here's one, quite a big question. We'll break it down to two sections. So the first question is, how can we stay steady in our sadhana and chant our chanting attentively without being affected by disturbance of the mind? That's the first question, Maharaj.
How can we be steady in our sadhana and chant attentively without being affected by disturbance of mind?
Yes.
First thing is, it's practice. Practice makes perfect. Abhyasa yoga yuktena cetasa nanyakamina. Paramam purusham divyam yati partamachinte. Practice implies that at first it's not at all perfect. But from imperfection, perfection comes. So Rupa Goswami says, utsaha, nishchaya, dhairya, to be enthusiastic, to have confidence in the process, to stick with it, to follow the various principles of guidance given by the spiritual master, to give up bad association, and to associate with devotees. That association is crucial. By associating with devotees. Even though we may be weak, we get strength. The saying is there's strength in numbers. The Chanakya Pandit also says that if you're going to fight a war, then you want to have a lot of people with you. So this war on Maya is more effectively fought when we stay in the association of devotees. What is that? Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Shanivas. To follow the instructions of the predecessor acharyas and always keep oneself in good association of Krishna's devotees. And practice. And practice will come to perfect.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So practice. So just to say thank you, Rohini Sutta Nitai Prabhu, for this lovely questions. The second part, what I want to ask you is, Maharaj, if you can just says, my dear Maharaj.
And one more thing, that
yeah?
for chanting attentively, unaffected by disturbance of mind, there are also some very good books that have been published. Satsrit Maharaj has published several books about chanting japa with attention. Purijan Prabhu has published on the topic. His Holiness Sachinandan Maharaj has published on this topic. So one can take advantage of their books and get some realized advice from dedicated practitioners.
Fantastic. So please check out Amazon. You can get most of these books there, and we'll try and give you the links on that. The second question, Maharaj, is how we can stay enthusiastic in our devotional service in this phase of COVID-19, where we didn't distribute books and preaching, and we just associate with everyone online on Skype or Zoom. Your servant, Rohini Sutta Nitai Das.
Why don't you distribute books? And why don't you preach? I've seen huge numbers of books distributed over the last couple of months. One just has to adapt. You may not go to a mall or this place or that place to distribute books, but just online, using the telephone, using the internet, devotees are distributing enormous numbers of books. So you can do that. It's not, if you remain, stuck in a different way of doing it that won't work now, then you say, oh, we can't do it. But if you adapt, you say, all right, what's the situation? And you adapt, you can distribute so many books. And in one sense, and then people are locked in, they have time to read. And they have some, what's the word? Some impetus, some reason. They all know that we're in trouble. So then it's a good time. This is a good time to read something about how to get out of the troubles of material existence. So it's not a bad time, it's a good time. You just have to know how to take advantage of it. Prabhupada gave the example of how to be Krishna conscious under all circumstances. He said that in the stock market, sometimes the price of shares goes up, sometimes the price of shares goes down. But the intelligent broker really doesn't care whether it goes up or down. When it goes up, he sells his shares and makes a profit. And when it goes down, he buys cheap. So either way, he's fine. He just knows how to adapt. So when there's freedom and we can go anywhere and everywhere, that's wonderful. We'll spread the Sankirtan movement. And when we're locked down with the virus prowling all around, we'll take advantage of that for spreading Krishna's holy name. We're doing it effectively among ourselves. We're getting devotee association. We're getting, in my experience, the classes that we're having online are more focused and valuable than the classes that we often have in our temples. devotees are focused and they can attend from anywhere in the world. So we're not at a loss among ourselves. We're having a good time. So the same principle can be extended for reaching outsiders also. It doesn't have to be that it's only for us. One just has to think about it. How to reach people, how to reach people, how to reach people. That's how book distribution began. Just some determined people thinking, how do we distribute books? Prabhupada wants us to distribute books. They'd never distributed a book, sold books. They weren't booksellers. But just by thinking about Prabhupada's instruction and wanting to do it, and then having a little, reciprocation from Krishna, then it became a huge thing. So if we have the determination and the desire, Krishna will help us.
There we go. So have that determination and desire, Rohine Sutta Nitai Das, and also everybody else on that.
And take advantage of Vaisheshika Prabhu's website, distributebooks.com. You'll get practical advice how to do it.
And he's also, there's a book, not a book, there's an app, Be a Sage, page by page, where you were mentioning before books that we can read and understand the Gita. He's actually helped people systematically study. So please check that app out as well. We've got a question coming from Rohit Kumar. So he says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavats Pranams, Jai Prabhupada. I have a question, Maharaj. How can we come to the stage of Sudanam chanting without any offense? Could you share some tips? And Maharaj, I was wondering, before you share those tips, please could you explain to the audience the different stages of chanting? And then if you could please share your tips on how we can go up those stages.
Well, you come to the point of pure chanting by chanting offensively. That's the first thing. There are, as you said, 3 stages. The first stage is there'll be offenses. What are offenses? Just like someone comes to visit your house and you don't know how to treat him nicely. You hardly give him a nice greeting. You don't inquire about his welfare. You don't give him any water or anything to eat. It's like, yeah, you can stay in the corner. It's fine, So we're negligent. We commit offenses to our guests. But at least you're all right. You're accepting I have a guest. And so in the beginning, we chant Hare Krishna offensively. We commit so many offenses. We hardly know what the offenses are. We're so accustomed to an offensive mentality. So we're covered by Maya, and we chant, but with offenses. But the spiritual master kindly explains what the 10 major offenses are and asks us to avoid them. So by practice, let me avoid this offense, let me avoid that offense, we come to the clearing stage. That means clearing means we're starting to clear out the offenses. Just as the sun starts to dissipate the fog, it doesn't become a sunny day all at once, but the fog starts to clear. You start with fog, then the sun comes up and starts to clear the fog, and then you get a full sunny day. So the second stage is the clearing stage. We know that I'm not supposed to blaspheme devotees of the Lord, that I'm not supposed to disobey the orders of the spiritual master, that I'm not to think that the glories of the holy name are imaginary, or that I should give some interpretation, mundane interpretation on the holy name, or think that the names of demigods like Brahma and Shiva, Durga, are on the same level as the holy name of Vishnu or Krishna. I'm not supposed to think that this is some ritualistic activity like the other ones recommended in the Vedic literature. I'm not supposed to be inattentive. I should never commit sinful activities with the idea that I'll just wash off the reactions by chanting the holy name. So in this way, there are 10 offenses. And one practices that, no, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, and I want to chant attentively. So if one sincerely, just as in exercise, you're exercising and exercising and exercising. So at first you're weak, but gradually you get some strength. So by following this program of chanting regularly with the intention of avoiding the 10 offenses, one gets better. One learns how to chant with attention, how to avoid these offenses. And finally, one comes to the pure stage, Shuddhanam, which means no offenses. That's the perfect stage. So I don't have any, tips, or it seems like like a little technique, a little trick, a little contrived. I don't have those kinds of tips, but just, Prabhupada said one time, just hear yourself chant sincerely. Well, there are some tips. Chant regularly. Have a regular time for chanting, not, in the gaps between here and there. Have a regular time when you can sit and chant nicely, especially the morning time before everything else gets rolling. Morning time is the best time. Have a regular place where you can sit and chant undisturbed. These are some practical thoughts.
Thank you.
And there are more, but that may get us started.
No, thank you, Maharaj. So let's go to the next question. So Tirumala Devidasi asks, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the class. You explained that Ajamil called for his son, and when he uttered the Lord's name in this way, he did so without offenses. But he wasn't thinking about Krishna. He was thinking about his son. So then wasn't it inattentive? So why was it considered to be offenseless? I hope it is not a silly question, but I have always wondered about this. Your servant, Tirumala Devidasi.
Yeah, it's not silly.
Yeah.
Oh, if you keep that question there, then I
Yep.
can. Thank you. The first thing is, how is it offenseless? He wasn't thinking this is a demigod's name. He wasn't thinking I'll get free from my sinful reactions by chanting. He wasn't thinking he wasn't committing any of those offenses. He wasn't thinking this is a ritualistic activity. He wasn't thinking that the glories of the holy name are imaginary. He was just desperately calling out, Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. So even though his intention was not to call for Lord Narayan, he was attentive. He was chanting as if his life depended on it. And he was not chanting with any of these offenses. It may have been ignorant chanting. He didn't know, or what would you say, unconscious or unintentional. But it wasn't offensive. It wasn't offensive. Also, the acharyas say, some of the acharyas comment that he was thinking about Krishna, because early in his life he'd been a good Brahmin and he was worshiping the Lord. Then he became deviated. But by chanting the name of Lord Narayan, these acharyas say, he remembered the same Narayan that he'd served in his youth. So that's an additional angle on the thing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So there we go. I hope that helped. And we still got 10 minutes, so please let those questions come in. So the next question, Maharaj, this is Shivangi Jaswal. Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is, how can we know that we are getting purified by the holy name? How do we know?
Prabhupada gave the example that when you eat, nobody has to give you a certificate that now I'm full. You'll feel satisfied and you won't want to eat anymore. So by chanting Hare Krishna, you'll feel, oh, this is nice. I like this chanting. Let me chant. You'll get a taste. This is nice. Let me go on chanting. And you'll lose your taste for other things. Why should I go to the movie? Why should I play video games? Why should I drink a cup of coffee? Why should I go looking for intoxicants or sex or this or that? Or why should I waste my time with mundane engagements? Let me be engaged in Krishna's service. So these are signs. One loses one's bhaktir parashyanu bhavo viraktir anyatracha. One becomes detached from material things because he's becoming purified. Attachment means impurity. And detachment means the mind is becoming purified. So again, we see no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating, no illicit sex. Yes. And then we want to read more, we want to chant more. We look for the association of devotees, not for mundane association. These are all signs of becoming purified.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Mm.
Maharaj, so the questions are coming fast and thick, which is great. So one is, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavats Pranam. My question is how we can remember Krishna 24/7, as death can approach us at any time. How can we do that, Maharaj?
Lord Chaitanya says, Kirtani is Sadahari. Chant 24/7. Remembering Krishna by meditation may be more difficult, but remembering Krishna by chanting the holy name is the recommended way. So go on chanting, go on chanting, go on chanting, go on chanting. That direction is there.
Fantastic. So Maharaj, one question's come in from the answer you gave for Shuddhanam. So Prashant Sharma is saying, thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful class. I have a question. You come to the right place, Prashant. What if we're not able to come on Shuddhanam stage before our death?
Well, there are two things. One is that Krishna may make up the gap. For Krishna, it doesn't take much time. Who was that? Maharaj Katvanga attained perfection in one moment. He asked the demigods, he received the boon, whatever you'd like. Now I want to know how much time I have left. Not much, a moment or so, that's all that you have left. Immediately surrendered. So it doesn't take years and years. It can be in a moment that if one is sincere by the grace of Krishna, whatever gap needs to be made up, Krishna will help us. Yes, you think of me, I'll help you. So that's one answer. The other answer is, suppose we don't come to the perfect stage, that we die halfway, 3/4 of the way. Krishna says, no, there's still no loss. Neha Vikramanashosti Prajavayo. You keep that with you. So even if you have to take another birth, Labhate Parvadeyikam, you'll automatically be attracted to this way of spiritual realization and continue from where you left off. If you left off at 75%, you start again from 75, 76%, whatever it is. But that doesn't mean we should be lax. Well, I have lots of births. I kick it around for a while. we should finish our business in this life. But even Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, even if one doesn't finish it in this life, then prapya punyakritam lokan. Anyway, when it's several verses, he says he'll come back and begin again. Avasha, as if helplessly attracted, he'll automatically be drawn to the Krishna consciousness.
Fantastic. Thank you, Maharaj. And we've got Venugopal. He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavats Pranams. When I chant few rounds nicely, when my mind starts glorifying me, you have done a good job. When I will be a victim of the mind again and lose focus, how can I overcome this?
Few rounds nicely, I'm envious. But this is the business of the mind, that if you chant even one mantra nicely, the mind starts to say, oh, you're really great. And then here's something else for you, here's something else for you. And then we lose the thread. So this is the business of the mind, Shanchalahi Mana Krishna Pramati Balavadritam. Mind is just uncontrolled, it becomes the worst enemy. Controlled, it becomes the best friend. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's advice was what to do. Beat your mind 100 times with a broomstick in the morning, and at night 100 times with a shoe. The mind should not be given any quarter. The mind should not be given space to drag us down. Then still it happens. It's easy to sit here and say, we shall not allow the mind. But anyway, it happens again and again. We get a little, we make a little progress, and then the mind finds a way to get in there. What about this? What about that? What about this? Remember that? How about this? Or what about that? And then we're in outer space again. So the Yuto Nishchali Chalati Manas Chanchalam Astiram Tatastato Niyam Yaitad Atman Yeva Vashamne, in 6th chapter, the Bhagavad Gita. That wherever the mind may drag us off because of its restless and unsteady nature, Yuto, wherever the mind may pull us. Oh, you're so great. Oh, you're so terrible. You'll never be able to chant. Oh, this, oh, that. Oh, what about this? What about that? Wherever the mind pulls us, tatastato, from that very place, Atman Yeva Vashamniye, one should again bring it under control. Srila Rupa Goswami gives the example that a child falls on the ground and picks himself up from that same ground. So wherever we fall short, because the mind is dragging us or tricking us or beating us or in some other way giving us a hard time, just again, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Just pick up from where you left off and keep going. That's practice. In music, you're practicing and you hit a wrong note, or you realize that you're not practicing with attention. So, all right, now let me get back to it. This is practice.
Practice, practice, practice.
Practice. And at the same time, pray for the mercy of the Lord, pray for the mercy of the devotees. Get that association, because Lavamatra Sadhu Shange, Sarva Siddhi, by even a moment's association with devotees. So it's not just mechanical. And of course, practice is not just mechanical either, but the association of devotees can work wonders for one's spiritual life.
Fantastic. Thank you, Maharaj. And we've come out of time. It's been an hour. And just on behalf of the ISKCON Kirtan Ministry and the World Holy Name Festival team, Maharaj, we just want to say thank you so much for joining us and giving this practical advice on how to chant the holy names.
Thank you for engaging me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.